Hi guys, it's Jamie from supergrowth.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use my email list cleaner tool. And what this basically does is it allows you to paste in or import in your email list, and it will clean it. It will try and get rid of any kind of dirty emails that are in there. So by dirty, what I mean is, invalid emails that would result in a hard bounce if you were to email them. So there's various filters that it runs through to try to determine whether it's a valid email address or not. So let's start off by having a look at what options we can set here in the set list clean options. So first off, we've got the SMTP check. So this will basically connect to the email server and see whether the email box doesn't exist. Now, the reason it's that way around as opposed to it does exist is because sometimes after you connect so many times to a mail server to check whether emails, to check what happens when you try and begin sending to an email address, it'll block you. So the reason I've done it this way is to prevent, false positives, because if we were to set this so that you'd only get a successful result if it was to say that the inbox exists, and then we got blocked, then you get loads and loads of loads of emails saying that they're not, they're false, when in fact they're actually completely valid emails. So how it works at the moment is it connects, and then we only say it's an invalid email if that mail server tells us that the mailbox doesn't exist. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the most complicated one to get your head around. So that works really well, for things like Gmail and stuff like that. So next, gibberish check. So what this does is it basically just checks the amount of unique characters that are in the email address. Because when people are trying to fill out a form, they don't want to put their email address in. Normally they'll just kind of put three or four fingers on the keyboard and just mash a long line of strings, and that's quite easily detectable. So emails like 12111212 blah blah, those kind of email address, this filter will get rid of those basically. Rude word check, pretty self-explanatory. People put in excuse my language, but fuck off at gmail.com and things like that. That'll filter that out. Whether it's a valid email, loose check. So what this does is this basically filters out any email address that contains any character that isn't a letter, a number, a dot, a dash, I believe underscore as well actually, and the @ symbol. Which that's fine for who has anything other than those really in their email address. Although saying that, that's why I've added in the strict check. You can actually have quite a wide variety of characters in an email address, but just most email systems don't support them. There are a few that do, which is why I've added this check-in to see if it checks the official email format. Check if a email domain is a known temp or disposable email domain. So within the software we have a database of disposable email addresses, and if a domain matches any of those, then we'll say it's a dirty email. Now this is quite a cool feature. It will slow it down to begin with. It can take, depending on your connection speed and your CPU speed. For me, it takes about 15-20 minutes to build that new database. What it basically does is it will, in the background, it'll go to Google, search for disposable email address, temporary email address, those kind of keywords, take all the domains that come back, well, the first 10 that come back for each query, and then it will load them up in the background, and it will pull out all those disposable emails that they use. So it's basically like a real-time check for disposable email addresses. Like I said, If you have a slow computer, that will take a long time, so I've left it unchecked by default. Check whether the email domain resolves. So, if it's jamie@gmail.com, it'll check if gmail.com resolves. Check if the domain has MX records. So when you have a domain like gmail.com, they'll have MX records, and then those records will point off to their mail server, so people know where to connect to send email through that domain, if that makes sense. So if a domain doesn't have MX records, there's a good chance that it's not going to receive any email. And also check if the email is a duplicate. Okay, so that's pretty much all the options. I'll just show you this other one quickly. This is basically just the amount of threads to run at once. So the reason I'd say leave that as it is because if you have too many connections going off to Gmail or Hotmail.com at once, then they will ban your IP, and that won't cause any false positives because of how we've set up that SMTP check, as I said before, but it will mean the results aren't quite as accurate. Okay, so I've put in just a few emails, 8 emails. Some are invalid, some are valid, and we'll go through them now, and we'll show you which ones are valid and which ones of things are invalid. So obviously gibberish with no check at all, that's got loads of fails. That one there failed for obvious reasons, swear words. That one failed because of the MX records and the domain not resolving, probably. You can click there and check. Yeah. Test at Gmail. So the mail server actually told us that test@gmail.com doesn't exist. And it also told us that this rubbish one we made up doesn't exist. And it's told us that, and these have all passed the filter checks, and also the Gmail server has told us that it's told us that they don't not exist, which means they do exist, if that makes sense. So hopefully that should give you a rough idea of how it works.